Hey everybody, sad news. Antonio Pierce was fired as defensive coordinator, but Antonio Pierce was fired as head coach of the Raiders. And yeah, it's sad news because I liked Antonio Pierce. I thought that he did a masterful job of stepping in the wake, well, really, of the whole mess that was Tom McDaniels and how he lorded over the Raiders and imposed a style that could be described in one word: immature. I mean, Antonio Pierce came back in and, first of all, reminded everyone that it was important to understand the Raider brand and all that went with it, including yells, attitude, culture. Okay. But my view from the outside looking in was that Mark didn't quite believe in Antonio's ability to build his own approach, and so had to surround him with supposedly more learned coaches like Marvin Lewis and Tom Coughlin. And ultimately, I thought it was too many cooks in the kitchen, and it overshadowed the main problem. The main problem was the defense and the way the defensive alignment was set up. And you've heard me talk about this before, where they would play their linebackers 5 full yards off the line of scrimmage. And why that's bad, but it's bad is because if the team chooses, the offensive team chooses to run against you and simply drive block run, dive block run, off tackle run, not go around the ends, end runs, they will pick up significant yardage. Why? Because by the time those linebackers have an opportunity to react and move to stop the run, the offensive linemen have built up a head of steam to drive block them. And there have been a number of occasions where that's happened. With all that, the Raiders' run defense was ranked 13th in the NFL. And I believe that's because for those teams that ran wide zone, for example, with all the zone runs that are used, the Raiders were in a great position to pursue and stop those runs before they got too far. But where the offset was caused by these up the middle runs where you had these large bubble areas. Bubble areas are where defenders, you have, let's say, 2 down linemen here, and then the linebackers here. The linebackers way off the ball, 5 yards. That is a huge bubble area to run through. And Antonio Pierce never fixed that, which means because obviously the Raiders never thought it was a problem. And they were not served by that stubborn desire to play that type of defense. By contrast, the number 1 and number 2 ranked rushing defenses in the NFL, the Ravens and the Vikings, don't play anything like that. They both feature alignments that bring many of their front 7 and front 8 close to the line of scrimmage. Thereby, they're simply able to blunt and then also get into the backfield faster because they're starting off closer to the line of scrimmage. And if you think about it from a physics standpoint, don't you want to stop someone who's 6'7", 307 pounds just as they're getting off the ball before they get off the ball and are dry blocking or able to take, 2 or 3 steps? Of course you do. Because by the time they get to that second step or third step, they're able to lunge and put their body weight and muscle right into you and push you and knock you over. So imagine if they're able to run 5 yards and get you. They've got a head of steam. It's these simple problems that cause the Raiders these yardage gains by opponents, and thereby losses. If the Raiders were able to just control the run to where it wasn't a factor and play more press defense, the Raiders, I believe, would be in the playoffs, because the Raiders' offense wasn't so bad, particularly under Aiden O'Connor, that they couldn't have made the playoffs. Defense wins championships, and somewhere along the way, the silver and black forgot that. Even though Antonio Pierce is a defensive player, Mark Davis has his imprimatur on this, even though he says he doesn't. But he does. He's a strong personality, and if he just says one thing, they being the coaching staff are going to jump to meet his needs based on what he says, even though he'll tell you they make the decisions. He's a powerful influence there. Now, the question is, who will the Raiders get as head coach? There's a bet here that John Gruden will come back to coach the Raiders. We'll see how it plays out, but I think it would be a wonderful repair job to bring John Gruden back, who left for the most terrible of reasons. Well, racist emails that he wrote that were uncovered. But the bottom line is there are a lot of people in the NFL, unfortunately, who have had the same problem in the past. And I believe now that all that's been pushed away, I think it's fair to say that I haven't experienced that. And anyway, I'll talk more about this later in my second video. Okay.